Welcome everybody to Cheese in Depth. I'm Michael Landis, and today we have count them, five cheese mongers that are going to be playing with their cocktails, and we'll be taking a little look at the differences that we can do with one cocktail, two cocktails, five cocktails, and of course their favorite cheese. So I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves as they come in. We're going to go alphabetical, so as you guys taking a look at the screen here, I'm going to first introduce Ben. Hi, Ben.
Hi there.
And we're going to have Brian.
Hello there.
And then, of course, we're going to have Iris.
How's it going?
And then Sherry.
Hello.
And Tonda. All right.
Hi.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ben, and he's going to introduce himself and also his cocktail. Ben.
Hi there. Thank you, Michael. So hello, my name is Benjamin Young. I am a cheesemonger at the Fox and the Crow Cheese Shop and Bistro in Fort Collins, Colorado. And for my cheese and cocktail pairing, I picked the Boston Sour with the Prairie Breeze Milton Farmstead Cheddar. So just a little bit about the Boston Sour. It's basically a whiskey sour, but they do add egg white to kind of give it a little bit more frothiness. And I'm going to show you how to make it right now. So the first part of it is going to be 2 ounces of whiskey. Now it says to use bourbon. I find you can do that, but I actually going to use Tullamore Dew instead. It's an Irish whiskey, but it does have a nice kind of confectionery taste to it, a little bit of that kind of caramel note. And I find that plays really well with a lot of the flavors in this cheddar. So we're going to start off with 2 ounces of that. Next, we're going to have 3 3/4 ounces of lemon juice, and fresh squeezed, of course. And I find that citrus actually goes well with some of the brighter notes in cheddars, especially some that are a little more mild, don't have quite that sharp bite to them. I find that you can bring out some more sweetness with acidic flavors. There is that. And then this one normally calls for a 1/2 ounce of simple syrup. I opted to actually use a Meyer lemon jelly with lavender instead. It has quite a bit of sweetness, but a little bit extra baking spice, which I find goes really well with the more savory notes. So we're going to use that instead. And I should mention, this is from Stone Hollow Farmstead. You can see right there. And this is one of my favorite jellies, let alone one of my favorite ingredients. So we're going to add that. And then lastly, this calls for a 1/2 ounce of egg white. Instead of trying to go through a bunch of eggs and separate that out in front of you all, I figured I would do that ahead of time. So we have a little egg white right here. And the purpose of that is to get it to froth up real nicely. It gives it a much better texture. It kind of almost gives you like a meringue whip to it. And then one of the most important parts about making this drink is the dry shake. Now, often they'll tell you you need to shake it first without ice. That's the dry shake. And then shake it with ice after. This kind of gets air whipped into the egg white. I've actually read a little bit about this, and it actually turns out it's almost better to do a reverse dry shake. So we're going to do it with ice first, get it nice and cold, strain it into a different shaker, and dry shake it there to kind of give it a nice whip. And that'll keep the foam there without the ice crushing it. We're going to add our ice. The wet shake is going to only go for maybe 15 to 30 seconds. And then we're going to transfer it into a second shaker. Here we are.
That sounds so good. Just the sound of it.
All right, and we're gonna give that a little bit of whip to it. And this you only have to do for maybe 15 seconds, but you really want to get after it. Make sure you get a lot of air into that egg white, and it'll give it a nice frothy texture. All right, and there is your Boston Sour. A little bit hard to see in a glass this size. Normally you put it in a coupe glass. Unfortunately, I don't have one of those. And then the cheese that I ended up pairing this with, the Prairie Breeze. So it's a cheddar with a little bit more kind of sweetness to the end. It's got like almost pineapple acidity to it. So I figured something that was sour but not overpowering would go really well with it. And it turns out that I find I actually get the sweetness of the Meyer lemon actually brings out more savory notes in the cheddar. And so you get this wonderful kind of kaleidoscope where you start off sharp, you kind of move through more savory, buttery notes, and then you actually finish a little bit more tangy and a little bit more acidic, which is, I find, kind of the opposite of the way that a cheddar is supposed to kind of progress, but I really enjoy it.
I really enjoyed that, the fact that you went through the process of explaining to us about the foaming, because that is kind of like a really interesting part of its ability to, to have that look of a cocktail. And that really looked like a real cocktail. So cool, thank you. That looked great.
Thank you.
All right, so Brian.
I'm up. All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Brian Gilbert. I'm the head cheesemonger here at Beecher's Handmade Cheese in Seattle, Washington. My side gig that some people know me from is Gilbert's Cheese Experience. Here I'm representing a kind of a mix of a couple different things. So we're going to do the Smokin' Blue Gin, and that's the name of it. We had so much fun with this. I kind of want to lead with, we found, my partner and I found these antique, I guess you would call them Collins glasses with this like brownish yellow square stem. I'm more excited about this glass than anything else, but let's get into cheese and cocktails because that's what we do, right? All right, so ingredients: gin, lime juice, a simple syrup that I made, just a rosemary infused simple syrup, a splash of tonic, and I'll explain why I chose some of these along the way. And a lot of drinks that have citrus, generally, I'm told, generally what I know is they like to be shaken in a shaker. So if you want to do that, that is awesome. I decided to use a mixing glass and stir it this time. So either way is your choice. You can just have fun with it, however. So we're going to start with getting our mixing glass. That's what we're using today. And I'm going to add some ice. In fact, I'm going to add some ice to the Collins glass first. We're going to call it a Collins glass. And this is a little bit like a gin gimlet in a way, I guess you could call it that, with a little spin on it because of the rosemary. So I'm going to fill that glass up pretty full. And then I'm going to drop some ice, of course, in my mixer. We all, like when we do these cheesemonger and cocktail things, I think we all have tongs, but none of us use them. We're here alone in our little places and kitchens and everything. So I'm going to fill my mixing glass, I don't know, about half full, maybe a little bit better. And we're going to take some gin. And I'll just speak to the ingredients as they go along because that's kind of fun. This is a London Dry Big Gin from Seattle, Washington. It's really nice. It just has a nice botanical, as gins do, juniper kind of note that I notice. It's not too dry, but it kind of goes in that flavor. It has a lot of aromatic notes that'll play well off the rest of the ingredients as we go down the line. So first I'm going to add 2 ounces of my gin. I do have my measuring jigger here for show, but I did pre-measure so we can kind of just move along here. My first inclination was to use Rose's Lime, but Rose's Lime has some ingredients that aren't quite as pure as we'd like to be, representing all the things we do in pure food here. So I just found some organic, 100% organic lime juice from my grocery store here at PCC. And it tastes a little bit different than the fresh squeezed lime that we're going to do. And so just give it a good shake. And I'm going to drop in my lime juice, get about 3/4 ounce there. And then we have some simple syrup that I made at home. This simple syrup is pretty simple. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. So like most simple syrups, 1 cup water, 1 cup sugar. We're going to boil it over a stovetop until it really breaks down, and then remove it from the heat, add a sprig or two of rosemary, and then let it sit in there about an hour or so, and you can remove everything, let it chill, and put it in the refrigerator, or actually let it cool down to room temp and then put it in the refrigerator. So that's what I did here, and it's kind of nice because in Washington I can just go outside and grab a sprig anywhere I want. They grow everywhere here, so that's what I did, and get about a half an ounce of that. And it's okay that the drink's sitting in there while I'm chatting. I almost like that it dilutes it just a little bit. And then I just have some tonic. I just have this local, well, actually local, it's a Brooklyn, the Q tonic water. And what's neat about this is it has a little bit of agave. It'll add a little bit of a fizz to it. Actually, we're gonna do that after I stir. I'm gonna stir up this cocktail and round and round, I don't know, about 10 or 15 seconds or so till the outside is noticeably cold. The reason I hesitated to put the splash of tonic in right away is I want to put it right on top of the drink afterward. And I started to mention that this has a bit of agave in it, which is kind of nice because it adds a little bit of sweet that the original thought I had for this drink was Rose's Lime, which is quite a bit sweeter, but it uses corn syrup. So I wanted to use something a little bit more pure in that sense, pure. So this is feeling pretty cold, and it's a pretty simple drink. I'm gonna get my strainer. Again, use whatever means you have. I'm gonna pour, see how good I can do this on camera here. I'm gonna pour my drink, la, 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 1, 2, 3. Ideally, you're gonna get almost a full glass there if you let it dilute just enough. And we're gonna take a little rosemary sprig and just set it, if we can get it through the ice in there. So good. Wait, I have to try it first before I tell you that. It might not be. Hang on. Pinky's out. It's so good. And for me, it's 1 o'clock in Seattle overlooking South Lake Union here, so that's great. All right, let's talk about the cheese. Dave Gremmels, owner of Rogue Creamery, guest to Michael Landis educational shows and video content. We all love him. He's friends of all of ours. If he's not, make him your friend. Dave Gremmels is awesome. But his company, Rogue Creamery, has a cheese called Rogue, or Smoky Blue. I almost said Rogue River Blue, but Smoky Blue. And Smoky Blue is this nice beauty right here. I have a couple pieces. And I took our Beecher's crackers. Actually, I had to pay homage to our honey oat Beecher's crackers, a little bit of sweetness. And I set it's a little tiny triangle, just a little cut. So I'm doing a triangle because I really like to have the center of the wheel and the edge of the wheel all represented on that piece. So you get like different notes throughout this one little piece of cheese. And so I set it on the cracker, and I have a little Bing cherry for sweetness, and I just picked that up at the grocery store as well. And a little bit of wildflower honey drizzled over the top. So here's the part, this is actually from Bellingham, Washington. Rob is the beekeeper, amazing guy, really good friend, well, colleague friend. We don't get to see each other too much, but he hand delivers honeycombs and honey to the Beechers at Pike Place Market here. It's amazing by itself, and it's even more amazing on this. So here's the point where you get to see me eat the bite of the cheese and try the cocktail together. What I really like is how they play off each other. With Smoky Blue, you have a vanilla, bread pudding, smoked bacon kind of tastes, apple, like all those really good flavors, nectarine that Smoky Blue has to offer if you can go deep into its flavor profile. If you have the cheese by itself, you'll notice those things, right? And then with the sweetness of the honey and the Bing cherry and a little sweetness of you think it'd almost be too sweet, but it's not. All together, this gin dries it up just enough. So that said, we're gonna try it together. You're gonna hear a few crunching. I'm gonna go yes or no. It's probably gonna be yes, but we'll see. And then I'll go on to the next Cheese Monger. So here we go. So good. Thank you. It's so good. It really is. Like better than it was the last time. I'm so happy. Okay. Passing it on to the next Cheese Monger while I chew away. Thank you, Michael Landis, for having us, and I cannot wait to see the next cheese and cocktail. Yum.
All right, great job, Brian. I mean, that was just amazing. I really enjoy the full descriptions of why you use everything and you know the difference between stirring and shaking. So thank you. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
All right. So coming up next, Iris.
I just had my second vaccine dose yesterday, and I'm still feeling like a bit of a hot mess. But lucky for me, the drink that I chose makes a lot of sense for this right now. When I think of summer kind of late spring cocktails, the first thing that my fiance and I always start to do this time of year is go out to our local tiki bar, like a bunch of crazy losers who love tiki bars. But that said, the drink that I chose is called the Painkiller, which is why it's so appropriate. The Painkiller, like many great things in the world, was a drink that was stolen by a woman by a British man, made by the folks at Pusser's Rum. So the drink itself was actually invented by a woman named Daphne, Daphne Henderson. And she ran a place called the Soggy Bottom Bar. So the owner of Pusser's Rum actually used to be a patron of said bar and enjoyed these pain-killing cocktails that Daphne cooked up so much. They decided to try to sneak some onto their boats because, well, this is the British Virgin Isles where they were, and reverse engineer said drink, and then ended up copywriting it. So it is not a painkiller unless you are using Pusser's Rum. And I assure you, I have tried actually multiple times to make this without Pusser's Rum, and it just doesn't work. I can't really tell you why. It's just something about the way that everything goes together. You just end up with a better drink using this rum versus any other rum. And I drink a lot of rum. Anyways, the drink is obscenely simple. So I'm gonna make it a couple of different ways because the traditional way you make in a shaker glass on the rocks, but I personally love making it as a blended drink as well. So let's get to the actual drink itself. And I'm gonna do this in reverse, which might seem a little bit weird to people, but I'll explain why as I'm going along. So the drink has the proportions of 2 to 4 to 1 to 1. I'm gonna start with the 1 and work my way up to the 2. I know that sounds backwards. The reason is I'm starting with the amazing Coco Lopez. Coco Lopez is cream of cocoa. This is actually another product that technically the only true one is only made by one producer, Coco Lopez. I'm pretty sure like Goya makes a knockoff, but I'm not gonna promote Goya right now. Anyways, the one thing that you encounter with cream of cocoa, if you are in a colder environment like I am here in Brooklyn, it usually comes completely separated and you have a really hard layer on top with a syrupy layer on bottom. So what I usually do is take a kind of double boiler situation. I just spoon the whole amount into there and then kind of double boil it, stir it up, pour it back in my can so that I'm ready to go. But since this has a tendency to separate and then solidify, I usually like to, at least when I'm in a colder climate, start at the bottom with this and slowly mix it with the acid, which is the orange juice, which is the other 1 ounce. Then we're gonna mix in the pineapple and then finally mix in the actual rum itself, give it a shake. And I find that way you have less of a opportunity for separation. So I'm going to do 1 large jigger's worth of the Coco Lopez. I like to use fresh squeezed as far as orange juice goes. You can use that which comes out of a bottle as well, but it's really obscenely easy when you're only doing like 1 ounce pours of orange juice to actually just use one of these guys. That said, I like to use pineapple juice right out of a can. I know, I'm so like highbrow, lowbrow, right? So I'm adding 4 parts. Then I usually just kind of give this a little bit of a stir at this point. Add my 2 parts of rum. Give this another little bit of a stir. Then I'm going to take the other part of my shaker. Fill it up with some ice. By the way, buy a separate ice machine. It's the greatest investment I've ever made in my life. So I pour this whole shebang down into here. Now at this point, I am technically done with the drink and can move on immediately to pouring this into a glass. They do recommend filling with ice a goblet, but if you want to class it up, you can use a nice tumbler or be really fun and fancy and use a tiki cup. And I'll go with the tumbler. You then want to garnish. I do a little bit of pineapple. Some nice Italian candied cherries. And a little bit of wedge of orange there. But then the most important part of this entire drink, do not do this without it, and only use fresh grated nutmeg. So that's one preparation, but you want to be a fun person like me, pour the rest right into the blender. Say hi to Carol the cow. You have a nice kind of blendy drink there. Do it with a slightly different garnish. So one fun thing that we love to do, and I have to do a shout out to our local bar called Superpower, which is just up no string from us here in Brooklyn. But we love to go there and get drinks regularly. And I highly recommend you all do this. Steal their little fun plastic drink ornaments so that whenever you have people over, you can look super cool. Anyways, what did I pair this with? Okay, before I completely lose my voice, I wanted to do this with something that, like this drink, was sweet but nutty and kind of round. And immediately I started thinking about cheddars, and one of my favorites is made by my favorite person, one of my favorite people. I have a lot of favorite people in Wisconsin. Chris Gentine of Deer Creek Farms. he made this incredibly sweet layered cheddar called Bat 17. And I gave him a call, and of course, Chris, being like the total overkill person he is, gave me way too much cheese. There's even more than that. I have like an entire second refrigerator. Thank you, Chris. Anyways, this cheddar was made for the Japanese market in particular, and it has a almost unnaturally sweet quality to it, but it just kind of revels in it. And I myself am not usually one who goes with something really sickly sweet as far as the cheddar goes, but in this case, it is just so refined, and the number of iterations that they went through to get this, it just works so beautifully. You can literally outright take this and just kind of use it as a garnish itself in said drink. I assure you, I've done this many, many times. And they go together amazingly. That's about it. I'm gonna drink these and then go pass out. I'm exhausted.
I am so happy that you were able to work your way through it and have our conversation. And I wasn't sure. I was, on the hinge, waiting, thinking, you'd be able to make it, but wasn't sure if that would happen. And I'm so happy that you are. I've spent a fair amount of time in the British Virgin Islands, and there's a boat restaurant out there called the Willie T's. And they do painkillers, number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4, and that's the number of ounces of rum. And you should make yours with a number 4, and then go nighty night.
If you really want to be fancy, you can do what all the cool kids do and give yourself a floater right on top. Works particularly well with a frozen cocktail in particular. But yeah, be careful with those number 4s. That said, the number 4 still goes well with the number 17, but hey, I'm tired. I'm sorry, I can't make jokes anymore.
That's all right. That's all right. All right. Well, rest up, be safe there, and if you need to go ahead and head out. And I appreciate your drink. That was wonderful, as always, especially bringing in Chris's wonderful cheddar. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, so let's go ahead and turn it over to Sherry.
Well, aloha. I'm Sherry Allen. I am the founder of Artisan Pairings by Sherry. And thank you, Michael, for inviting me to participate with the Cheese and Cocktails. This is the second one that you've asked me to be part of, and I'm excited. Spring just makes me think about my second home. I lived in Hawaii for a number of years, for a good part of the year. So my second home, and hibiscus is one of my favorite flowers. And I don't know if you know, but they're edible. I've actually got from my cocktail these wild hibiscus flowers that are in a syrup. So you can use the syrup in the cocktail. So what we're going to do today is I've got the hibiscus in the coupe glass with some of the simple syrup from the wild hibiscus flowers. You can buy those online. They came from Australia. Or you could use Monin hibiscus syrup as well. So I've got the hibiscus flower that I pulled out of there and put it in the glass with about 1.5 tablespoons of the syrup. I'm going to make cocktails for 2. The other liqueur that I'm using is called Chambord. It's a raspberry liqueur from France. And I love this bottle. It's kind of really super pretty. But yeah, my thoughts went to something sparkly, something a little bit hibiscus, florally sweet to pair with the cheese that I chose. And I'll tell you about that in a little bit. So I'm going to put about 3/4 of an ounce of the Chambord in the glass itself. It's a simple cocktail. Cocktails don't always need to be super fancy or have a lot of preparation to them. but this one I wanted to do because it involves bubbles. Bubbles are what pairs so extremely well with this soft ripened bloomy rind cheese that I'm going to tell you about here. So let's see if I can pop this bottle open properly. This is a sparkling brut rosé, so we're going to be just a little bit pink here. I'm going to have my towel so I don't have any mishaps as I hold the bottle and just carefully try to get a grip to twist this cork, because it should just, that's it. I was told that if you pop it right, it should be just like a grandmother's kiss, a little. So we're going to finish off these glasses because we're making cocktails for two. You know, you're going to have, I spread out my favorite Hawaii wrap skirt, put out my cheese, cocktails for two. So nice little moment for a soiree with your special someone. But I'm just going to top off this glass with a pour of this sparkling rosé. And you've got that lovely little hibiscus flower sitting down in there as a surprise for you as you sip down through. Now you could do this in a champagne flute as well. You're going to get those lovely flavors from that raspberry liqueur, and then the hibiscus simple syrup from the bottle. The cheese I chose to do for my pairing is from a French company called Savencia. They have a plant in Lena, Illinois. So this is actually a French-inspired, American-made brie. They set out to reinvent brie by creating this cheese. It's called Supreme. I love it because it comes in two sizes. It comes in this lovely little 7-ounce oval, which is a great size for 2 to 4 people, or these cute little brie bites, which I think are beach ready to have for a snack. And they're in a package and they're just tiny little cute little medallion guys. And you can see how buttery, creamy this delicious little cheese is. You could pop it on top of a nice little tea cake to eat along with the cocktail. They collect cream from dairies surrounding the creamery there in Lena, Illinois daily. It's pasteurized immediately so that they can maintain the creaminess and the flavor of this cheese. So it's just going to be buttery, creamy. It's a beautiful French-inspired brie, but made in the US. And I am going to try it with my cocktail because bloomy, soft ripened bloomy rind cheeses like this, it's got this nice little thin rind. There's just not much rind at all to it. It's very delicate. Just love bubbles. Bubbles cut through the butter fat in a cheese. So bubbles is a beautiful pairing for any brie style cheese. I topped this one with a couple of extra of those hibiscus flowers. So I'm going to enjoy my tropical cocktail here with the hibiscus and this cute little brie cheese. That is delicious. Oh boy, that is as well. So simple to make, but very elegant and beautiful, especially if you're having cocktails for two. So thank you, Michael, for giving me the opportunity to share one of my favorite little brie cheeses. I buy these brie bites all the time to snack on and to pack in a little to go to take to the beach or somewhere.
Well, thank you very much, Sherry. And that's Supreme is one of my favorites. I've enjoyed that for such a long time, and the cocktail sounds totally delicious. So, thank you so much. And like I said before, you look marvelous in the Hawaiian outfit.
Oh, thank you, Michael. This is one of my favorite dresses from when I was living there.
All right.
Great.
Okay, so let's go ahead and turn it over to Tonda. Tonda.
Well, hi. How's it going, everyone? My name's Tonda Correnti, and I am the founder of La Femme du Fromage in Orlando, Florida. And I'm actually coming to you live from my new little boutique that I opened upstairs, which is so fantastic. And so I can't actually believe that I actually own such a cute little vintage boutique now. But really, I had no room for anything downstairs because my cheese shop is a shoebox. It is 200 square feet of everything. And so we needed more space. And well, I just can't just have more space that doesn't turn me money. So I turned it into a vintage boutique. And so that's where I am at right now, which is actually an office too. So anyway, I wanted to have a little fun with this particular pairing and this challenge. And also to thanks Michael for including me and the cocktail pairing, because you know I love pairings. And what I've done is I also created a pairing using Deer Creek Creamery. They too are one of my favorite cheese companies out of Wisconsin. And although Kristen sent me a bunch of cheese, I mean, I didn't ask either, I probably should have, but I originally started buying the Moon Rabbit cheddar because, of course, I loved the labels. Because what I love about Deer Creek Creamery is that they have the cutest artistry with all their little labels. And well, it's a shame that I don't have that label smacked on my cheese right now, but I digress. It's a cute little bunny, and of course I love bunnies, and it's just the cutest little thing. And so I bought the cheese, really not knowing much about it. But the cheese is it's their sweet cream cheddar recipe, but then they bathe it in green chartreuse, which is wrapped in this beautiful fairy-like green kind of color, which really resembles the color of the chartreuse. So then it makes me kind of say, gosh, what's chartreuse? Like, really, what is that? I mean, I've heard of it, but like, really, what is it? And it's such a neat story. It's a little bit folklore, like a little bit mystery. No, a lot bit mystery. Definitely scandal and controversy. And yet a story of like perseverance for this liqueur that really just kind of has been such a secret for such a long time. And I think that that just makes things really sexy when you have no idea and you're just kind of like, wait, where does this come from? So basically the story of chartreuse, chartreuse is a French liqueur, and it was made, I mean, the recipe for it, the elixir itself was back in the 1600s. It was given to some monks in the Grand Chartreuse Monastery in the 1700s. The monastery was in the green chartreuse, the Chartreuse Mountains in the south of France. And it's this really interesting, they've got a green and a yellow chartreuse, but it is an interesting, beautiful green color. This is the one I'm using today. It's made of like 130 herbs and florals and all kinds of things that and really the recipe is just a secret. It's just a secret. And these monks had this secret recipe, and then the story goes that you know, they were fleeing their religious persecution out of France, and then somebody had the recipe in a, like in a manuscript or whatnot, and then that person got arrested, but he was able to like smuggle the recipe in because he didn't get searched, and he was able to give it to a friend. And well, anyway, long story short, it's been through all kinds of hands and secret kind of dealings to be able to withstand. And today it's still being made by a monastery, and only like 2 people know the recipe. And like, I guess they produce it all for the entire globe. It's kind of crazy. I don't know how much of it's all true, but I kind of love secret kind of society, speakeasy style, just underground culture. And that's kind of what this is. So when a cheese is bathed in green chartreuse, of course I'm going to try and come up with a cocktail. So going into the cocktail books, I came up with a classic bijou. A bijou is a classic cocktail from the late 1800s, and it is a gin-based drink. So I've got an herb-infused dry gin. I'm using obviously the Bombay Sapphire, and then we've got a little bit of the sweet vermouth, and then of course the green chartreuse. So I'm going to start to mix that. We're doing 1 part, equal parts all the way. So I'm going to use my little jigger. My bartending skills are a little lacking. The show part of it, I guess, is I haven't been bottle flipping and setting things on fire in many a year. So we're going to use just equal parts here. And then of course I've gone last in this lineup, which I'm fine with. It's okay. I don't mind being the last. I'm usually not lucky enough to be the last one. So I'm going to use some of my non-melted ice as I dump it all over my floor. And I'm just giving it a light stir. And that's about it, I believe. And then I'm going to kind of strain it. My ice is a little loose right now, so I think there was probably some water in there as well too. Oh well. And then I'm going to come in here with a little bit of an orange. Let me just rip this off because I had already kind of started doing it. And let me just get a new pretty little piece. And I'm going to give it a little essence, a little, yep. Let that kind of float in there. I've got a large format ice cube, well, a puddle of water, but also a nice large ice cube in there. Maybe I really need to bring this little guy up on top because I like him to kind of be a nice little. So this is what I was talking about when my bartending skills are a little less than par. All good. I really don't care. I forgot the orange bitters. Whatever. We're just going to go with it. But what I'm doing here, because this drink was really sweet, because the chartreuse is sweet and the vermouth is sweet. And of course the gin is pretty neutral, right? So everything was kind of sweet. And for me, pairing it with this cheese, it just kind of overpowered. So I needed a little salinity. So I grabbed some fleur de sel and I'm literally adding it right to the top of my ice, my, what used to be a big rock. And I'm just kind of adding it right in there. And I'm actually watching all the salt kind of sink to the bottom here. And then I also like to garnish it with a little pretty herb just to kind of just allow it to just be aromatic when it comes to your nose. So doing this again with this Moon Rabbit sweet cream cheddar, bathed in the green chartreuse, and then you've got this fun Bijou Bunny, which was my name for it, the bougie Bijou Bunny. That was really just a joke. It's really just the Bijou Bunny, because that's what this pairing is. And And it's really good. And actually, when you get that salt, it really helps quite a bit, because this is a boozy drink. I mean, I kind of like it like that. No judgments here, please. But you need a little of that salinity to kind of help balance things out, because you want that crunchiness and that saltiness in the cheese to be able to stand up. And when you add that fleur de sel in there, it really just kind of helps orchestrate the entire pairing. So, but I think it was really, really good. I wish I could share it with you right now.
What's in the chartreuse? Tell us the secret. Tell us the secret.
I don't know the secret. Nobody knows the secret. It's 130 herbs.
I love the name. That is so great. I think that's one of the most fun parts about all this, is coming up with the name. We don't have to. I don't think Michael's ever said we had to, but it's so much fun.
Well, you know, I feel like it's also kind of just alluring too, because people don't really know what chartreuse is, and it's like, well, what exactly is that? And I just kind of went for it. I went for something that would it would make sense that you would find a chartreuse drink to make with a cheese like that. But I just didn't know that anybody would actually go for it, because you're like kind of not sure even what the thing is. And it's just such an easy, well, it's not easy at all. It's a very complex, floral, interesting, fairy-like kind of liqueur, as well as it has that whole folklore kind of story behind it too. And it's just, I don't know, kind of fascinating. Just fascinating. Fascinating.
Tonda, I thought it was cool that you picked that cheese, because I first tasted that cheese in a box of several different ones given to me, and I had to look up chartreuse to see, what is this?
Yeah.
It's funny that I'm at Beecher's and I didn't do a cheddar style cheese today.
That's good for you, though. That's actually what I was expecting to do. So that's good. You're getting out of the box.
David Gremmels was like, "Thank you so much for picking Smoky Blue. That's so nice."
Oh, Brian, I love Smoky Blue. It's one of my favorites.
We sell it. Obviously, we get it in all over, but I don't eat it as often. When we were off screen, I'm like, oh my God, I can't stop eating it.
Kind of like
I did a whiskey and cheese pairing with, and I used Smoky Blue for that once. I mean, it's just such a fabulous cheese.
It is. All of those cheeses are exceptional, and I'm very impressed that we had two from Deer Creek, which I think is really interesting. Of all the cheeses that we can pick, to go that direction. But excellent recipes. I love all of them. Make sure that you have them sent over to me, so I have them, so I can post them with the videos here. And I enjoyed every single one of them. You guys are just great to work with. I really enjoy this. So, maybe we can put together another one coming up before 4th of July to kick that season off.
Oh, that would be awesome, Michael.
All right. So again, thank you guys so much for coming out and playing today. I really greatly appreciate it. And, we will keep in touch, and you guys be very safe.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.